Welcome to Chasing Curiosity TV. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more updates. Breaking news. Tensions are reaching a boiling point in the South China Sea, a region that has become one of the world's most volatile flashpoints. The eyes of the world are fixed on these waters, where the stakes are rising with every passing day. In a powerful address, the Philippine president declares, "Not 1 inch of territory will be ceded amid Chinese aggression." His words echo the determination of a nation unwilling to back down in the face of mounting pressure. The South China Sea is once again the epicenter of a dangerous geopolitical standoff, where vital shipping lanes and rich natural resources intersect with national ambitions. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is taking a bold and unprecedented stand against China's encroachment, signaling a dramatic shift from the more cautious policies of his predecessors. His administration is determined to defend Philippine sovereignty at all costs. This isn't just a maritime dispute, it's a test of international law, the strength of alliances, and the very identity of the nations involved. The world's legal frameworks are being challenged in real time. Each new incident, each confrontation at sea, pushes the region closer to open conflict, with global consequences hanging in the balance. The risk of miscalculation is ever present. Dramatic footage reveals Chinese Coast Guard vessels aggressively maneuvering against smaller Philippine boats, while Filipino fishermen are harassed and driven from their traditional fishing grounds. These scenes are becoming alarmingly common, fueling outrage and fear. These are not isolated events but part of a calculated and persistent campaign to assert China's sweeping territorial claims over nearly the entire South China Sea, disregarding the rights of its neighbors. For the Philippines, this is existential, impacting not just economic security and food supply, but the very sovereignty and future of coastal communities who depend on these waters for their livelihoods. Filipino sailors and Coast Guard personnel are showing remarkable courage and resilience on the front lines, patrolling contested waters and standing firm in the face of overwhelming odds. Across the nation, supporters praise Marcos Jr. for standing up to China, seeing him as a symbol of national pride, while critics warn that the risk of escalation could bring unintended consequences for the entire region. The world is watching closely. Will international law and diplomacy prevail, or will might make right in these contested waters? The decisions made here could set precedents for conflicts far beyond Asia. This crisis is about more than territory or resources. It's about the future of Southeast Asia, the security of its people, and the stability of the global order. We'll explore the deep historical context, the roots of the current tensions, recent incidents that have brought the region to the brink, and the shifting alliances that are shaping the response. The urgent search for a peaceful resolution continues, as diplomats and leaders from across the region and the world work tirelessly to prevent a wider conflict. The South China Sea story is a defining struggle of our time, a test of resolve, diplomacy, and the international order. The stakes could not be higher. The outcome will shape not only the fate of the Philippines, but the future of peace and stability in the entire Asia-Pacific region. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has become a forceful advocate for Philippine sovereignty. His declaration, "Not 1 square inch will be abandoned," is now the cornerstone of his foreign policy. Unlike his predecessor, Marcos Jr. has pivoted back to traditional allies, especially the United States, and is rallying international support. He frames the dispute as a global issue, emphasizing the need to uphold UNCLOS and a rules-based order. Marcos Jr. is modernizing the military and Coast Guard, increasing funding and boosting morale among frontline personnel. His administration documents and publicizes every instance of Chinese aggression, exposing Beijing's actions to the world. This transparency keeps the Philippines' plight on the international agenda. Marcos Jr. is making it much harder for the world to look away. At its core, the South China Sea conflict is a struggle over sovereignty and national identity. The waters are not just a strategic location, they are a symbol of who controls their own destiny and who gets to define the future of the region. The dispute is about more than just territory. It's about the right to self-determination and respect on the global stage. For Filipinos, the West Philippine Sea is integral to their territory, history, and economy. Generations have relied on these waters for their livelihood, and the sea is woven into the fabric of Filipino culture and daily life. It is a source of pride, sustenance, and a vital part of the nation's heritage. The presence of Chinese vessels is seen as a direct affront to autonomy and a violation of international law. It's not just a matter of ships in disputed waters, it's a challenge to the Philippines' right to govern its own resources and protect its people's interests. Images of small Philippine boats standing up to massive Chinese ships have ignited a wave of patriotism and unity. These moments have become powerful symbols of resistance, inspiring ordinary citizens to rally behind their country and demand respect for their sovereignty. The issue transcends politics, it's about dignity and survival. For many, it is a deeply personal fight, touching the core of what it means to be Filipino and to stand up for one's rights in the face of adversity. Filipino fishermen's livelihoods are threatened, making this a fight for economic survival and food security. Every day, they face uncertainty, not knowing if they will return with enough catch to feed their families or if their way of life will be lost forever. The government's firm stance reflects public sentiment. The nation must not be bullied. Leaders echo the people's call for justice, vowing to protect the country's rights and ensure that the Philippines' voice is heard on the world stage. Allowing China's claims to go unchallenged would set a dangerous precedent for all smaller nations. It would signal that might makes right, undermining the rules that protect the sovereignty of every country, no matter its size or power. By standing firm, the Philippines defends the principle that all nations are equal under international law. This stance is not just for itself, but for the global community, reinforcing the idea that justice and fairness must prevail. This is a modern struggle for independence. It is a test of national resolve, a call for unity, and a reminder that the fight for sovereignty and pride continues in new forms, shaping the future for generations to come. The South China Sea tension is a daily reality, marked by aggressive encounters. Chinese Coast Guard and maritime militia vessels target Philippine ships in a coordinated strategy to assert control and obstruct legitimate activities. The Flashpoint resupply missions to the BRP Sierra Madre at 2nd Thomas Shoal, where Chinese vessels block, shadow, and physically impede Philippine ships. China's use of water cannons has caused real damage and endangered lives, escalating the conflict beyond harassment. The maritime militia, ostensibly civilian but state-directed, adds complexity, swarming key features and supporting the Coast Guard. These gray zone tactics blur the line between civilian and military, making response difficult. The goal: wear down Philippine resolve and force abandonment of outposts. The Philippines-China dispute is the most visible flashpoint in a broader contest for control of the South China Sea, one of the world's most vital trade arteries. Any conflict here could disrupt global supply chains and economies. Other Southeast Asian nations with overlapping claims, Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, watch closely, knowing they could be next. Regional powers like Japan and Australia have stepped up support for the Philippines, recognizing the universal stakes. ASEAN struggles to present a unified front as China's assertiveness strains the bloc's unity. The region's stability and the rules-based order hang in the balance. The Philippines has adopted a proactive strategy of assertive transparency. By documenting and publicizing confrontations, Manila exposes Chinese aggression to the world. Journalists are embedded on patrols, and high-quality evidence is shared globally, putting China on the defensive. The Philippines is modernizing its Navy and Coast Guard, strengthening outposts, and coordinating joint operations. Legal and diplomatic efforts center on the 2016 arbitral ruling, grounding the Philippines' position in international law. President Marcos Jr. and his diplomats raise the issue in every international forum, building a coalition to pressure China. These actions send a clear message: the Philippines will not be pushed out. Truth and law are Manila's weapons against brute force. China's use of water cannons against Philippine vessels marks a dangerous escalation. These high-pressure jets have caused injuries and serious damage, transforming intimidation into direct physical harm. The blockades around 2nd Thomas Shoal are increasingly brazen, with Chinese ships forming tight cordons to prevent resupply. Filipino crews face immense psychological stress, sailing into danger with courage and professionalism. China's strategy is attrition, hoping relentless harassment will force Manila to abandon its outpost. Each incident raises the risk of miscalculation and open conflict. A serious injury or death could provoke a national outcry and force retaliation. The U.S. has reaffirmed its defense treaty with the Philippines, warning that attacks on Philippine vessels could trigger American involvement. The risk of superpower confrontation is growing. The U.S.-Philippines alliance has been revitalized under President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., marking a significant shift in the region's security landscape. After years of uncertainty, both nations are now working more closely than ever, signaling a new era of cooperation and mutual trust. The historic 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty has been reaffirmed, with both sides making explicit commitments to defend each other's vessels and interests. especially in the increasingly contested waters of the South China Sea. This renewed pledge sends a clear message to both allies and rivals. Joint military exercises have not only expanded in scale but also in complexity, involving more troops, advanced technology, and new scenarios. The U.S. now provides increased funding, specialized training, and access to strategic sites across the Philippine archipelago, strengthening the country's defense capabilities. U.S. support is both military and diplomatic, with strong statements condemning China's assertive actions and regular freedom of navigation operations to challenge excessive maritime claims. These efforts are designed to uphold international law and reassure regional partners. This visible American presence in the Philippines reassures Manila's leaders and citizens, but it also raises the stakes in an already tense region, drawing global attention to the archipelago's strategic importance. For China, U.S. involvement is seen as unwelcome interference in its backyard. For the Philippines, it's a vital security backstop and a way to assert sovereignty. The alliance is both a shield and a source of controversy at home and abroad. President Marcos Jr. must carefully balance leveraging U.S. support with maintaining Philippine autonomy and managing relations with China. His diplomatic strategy is under constant scrutiny as he seeks to protect national interests without alienating key partners. The alliance acts as a powerful deterrent against aggression, but it also comes with the risk of unintended escalation. Any miscalculation could quickly draw both nations into a larger conflict. The challenge for Manila is clear: defend its national interests and territorial integrity while avoiding actions that could provoke a direct clash between superpowers. As tensions simmer and regional rivalries intensify, the stakes for peace and security in the South China Sea have never been higher. The world is watching how this renewed alliance will shape the future of Asia. Marcos Jr.'s administration has shifted Philippine diplomacy from bilateral accommodation to multilateral coalition building. Recognizing it can't face China alone, the Philippines is leveraging international law, public opinion, and alliances. Manila has forged closer security partnerships with Japan, Australia, and Canada, involving joint patrols and intelligence sharing. The government is now vocal in naming and shaming China, raising the issue in ASEAN and global forums. This strategy forces other countries to take a stand, preventing complacency. The goal: create leverage for a peaceful, rules-based resolution grounded in the 2016 Arbitral Award. The Philippines calls for diplomacy between equals, not dictated by the powerful but by respect for sovereignty and law.